Good evening, ladies and fellow Ambazonians. You're welcome to this very important broadcast. Firstly, I'd like to apologize for the very late start. We're trying to connect and arrange some things on the system. Christmas is fast coming. You know, ABC Amba Television is always preparing ahead of time. So we are redesigning our systems and doing some stuff, making plans for all of our studios so we can provide to you, Ambazonians, quality content come December 2025. There's a lot we realize as we're compiling a report for the government. We realize that this government this year has done quite a lot, and the movement, the liberation movement, has advanced tremendously. But that's not the focus of our discussion today. We're going to use next weekend to make an appreciation of how much the government, ABC Amba TV, and the departments, and where we are in our effort for freedom. We understand that the interest of or the election in neighboring French Cameroon is something we've been looking very closely, and we are interested in it. But sadly enough, what most of us Ambazonians will want is probably not going to happen. That's my estimation. Interestingly, today, and for the very first time, I'm having 5 guests. I'm not going to review. On a Saturday, we're always having male. So there's a lot of testosterone that has been mixed with, is it progesterone or progesterone today? So there's an important lady that's joining us in this conversation. She has sneaked herself into this program. You would like to hear from her. We'll be talking and examining what is happening in neighboring La Republique de Cameroon, because whether we like it or not, it is affecting, or it can affect, it has the propensity to affect the way we go about the business of the struggle. I feel sad doing this because Tchiroma is really not hitting the nail on the head. Is this a strategy? You may want to ask that question. There is a post-election, there is a disconnect between the people and the opposition leader and a strategy. I still believe that Tchiroma was surprised that he was able to pull the crowd. He didn't really have a long-term plan. But even at that, he could have queued in, like Zama said last Saturday, taken advantage of the people to ignite the revolution. We've seen he has given a lot of orders that have not been respected. Most recently, his speaker decided to adopt, in fact, his team has adopted the full Ambazonian strategy. They want to create pilot structures to ascertain the government that they have declared. But the government of the people of Ambazonia has its credence because it has a strong backing from the people, both at home and abroad. And the people of neighboring French Cameroon really ready and willing? Is it in their character to be resistant and be resilient like the people of the Southern Cameroons? These are some of the questions we would like to. I know Barrister Fru is biting his tongue as I speak right now, because he is one of those believers of Issa Tchiroma. And I don't blame him for believing. We all think that it was high time for some change. Atanganji is gaining some points, should I say so? Because his propaganda seemed to be working. He just voted for himself a huge budget to continue in his mischief, fraud, intimidation, and manipulation of the people. Well, the focus of tonight's conversation is not that. That is an aside. A few days ago, Milan, who has been away for over 5 years, emerged after a sneaky tour in the United States of America, emerged with the long and short of his write-up was literally criticizing every other person. Now, the strategy of that write-up, if you've read it, I don't have the time to go through it. It's just some portions of interest that I'm going to highlight to lay down a foundation for this conversation. But you would realize the strategy of Milan's write-up was to present himself as the know-all, the Messiah, the one person who knows exactly where we are and where we're going. Milan has forgotten so soon that he was the originator of Scoop. Scoop is what brought the highest divide in the struggle at a time when the momentum of the struggle was unmatched. Milan, for some very strange reason, created a faction within the interim government, the then interim government, that cracked the government, the strength of the government, the donations of the government by almost 50% split. Milan was the forerunner of APNC. And to buttress the point, to support the suspicions that he alone knew what happened to the NERA 10, Milan was having backdoor meetings with President Sisiko even before the acting president, the then acting president, President Sako, knew it. So before the cabinet knew it, so there was a strange, mysterious relationship with Sisiko Julius Ayuk-Tabe and Milan. Now today Milan wants to accuse people he said they have blood in their hands. Milan has forgotten so soon that the structure he created with Sisiko, they unilaterally asked the people of the Southern Cameroons to go out on September 22nd. On that single day, 400,000 people died, and they didn't have a backup. Maybe we can give them credit that they were taking advantage of the energy to strike, because that changed the trajectory of our movement. But these guys were not strategists because they did not have a backup. We had 400,000 people died, armless, harmless. They had no protection. It's when our boys, our volunteers, our brothers at the home front, saw that their people were dying, they mobilized themselves and started taking responsibility to protect our women and children. In fact, the government of Ambazonia had a structure of approaching the war from the home front only in March 2018 when President Sako took over office. He gave a structure. He mobilized people on the ground and told them, hey, it's high time you protect yourselves and protect your women and protect your people, else you will all be wasted. So he is thinking in his head that everybody has forgotten that he had a mysterious miss of his flight. That the right-hand man of President Sisiko at the time, during an important meeting, was absent. And that his in-law, Katsina Nyangwe, very strangely, for the first time since Sisiko became governing council chair into the interim government president, for the very first time, Milan and Katsina Nyangwe were not available with Sisiko. We know Zara, what happened, they were there before time. Milan has not sufficiently convinced the people of the Southern Cameroons and Ambazonia what happened to the NERA 10, because from his own utterances, he had more information than any other person. It is an open secret that Milan and Sisiko had strange backdoor talks with certain members of the government of Cameroon, and the people in the cabinet or the people of Ambazonia were not aware of these strange talks between Rene Sadi, Mbankwi. Today we know it. These people themselves have confessed that they had discussions with Ayuk-Tabe and his right-hand man Milan. and probably Councillor Nyangwe. And they arranged this strange meeting that got President Sisiko running after his speech. I remember I was one of those who produced that speech. Running after his end of year speech back into Nigeria to be picked up 3 days later. Milan things were forgotten. Milan, in his write-up, like I said, I don't want to go through word verbatim. In his write-up, spoke about the CDC deal, even after he's aware that Mr. R brought the deal that raised the alarm with Nanchop, Nanchop. Is it Nanchop? No, Nanchop. Yeah, I've just forgotten some of these guys and their names. Even after they were unable to provide evidence, even after they themselves were not even sure what they're saying. So you realize that Milan, the fear of missing out that he brought in there, if you analyze his write-up, long write-up anyway, you realize this is a man who is thick in his core, has a very high esteem for himself, and has the fear of missing out. So he's sabotaging those who think that unity should be a way forward for the frontline leaders, even though the president and the government of Ambazonia does not subscribe in this whole unity stuff. So talking about unity, we're going to talk about the re-emergence of the unity warriors. The unity warriors was a code that was used to sacrifice the lives of a lot of fighters. I can't name them. And the resurfacing of the unity warriors, I see the hand. I don't know why I feel that Atanganji is in communication with them. Where is it coming from? So we have Commander Elvis with us on the platform. I was expecting to have the spokesperson of the ANSC Gabonese to send us a voice note in this regard. We have not received that. If we can get him on a phone call, I'm going to try to see that. I don't want to bring him on TV, but I can put him on the phone call to react to this. We have SOS Zama here too that's going to talk to us. And interestingly, beautifully, I'm very excited to announce to you people that we have, is she still the chief of staff? Is she still operating as chief of staff? Okay, we have chief of staff sneaking through Barrister Mbeseha's login to talk to us. Lady and gentlemen, you're welcome to this important broadcast. So much for us to talk about. Barrister Fru, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You'll be very patient. You'll be very, very patient. Thank you for being patient. So we have a lot to talk. You're all welcome. Before we move into the newsroom, I'm calling on all those who are watching us via our different social media platforms to share. Those who are watching via Zoom, via Facebook and YouTube. Please share and share because we have a lot to talk on today. If you can see, Commander Zama is writing, taking down some notes, meaning there's so much for us to talk about. And the panel is huge. Hi, Dr. Yaya, please greet us as the only lady on the platform, please. We're going to manage you like that on the site.
Hello.
Are you the kitchen?
Oh, thank you.
Are you guys the kitchen? So you guys have just been eating and drinking. That's strange.
Yes, we have.
That's nice.
We'll be eating and drinking.
Yeah. I hope you are not drunk. I hope you have not spoiled Dr. Yaya.
I'm totally spoiled. Really. Paddy, I must tell you, it is just surreal sitting beside this. He looks little, but a great man indeed. I'm so honored to have the chance to have met Barrister Mbeseha face to face, and there's really nothing I would have traded, this for. So, Barrister, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you for your selfless sacrifice. We did talk about this on the horizon yesterday. Look, I am sitting right beside a living encyclopedia, and someone told me, make sure you tap everything from him. I said, how am I going to do that? You want me to squeeze the man dead? What can he talk, in a couple of hours? But I am just so honored. And a few other Ambazonians have been around to see him, who is visiting, the country right now. So, Barrister, we're so, so honored and pleased to have you around. I am so overjoyed and glad to see you all and all the panelists, Barrister. Oh, God. I'm so infused with barristers. Comrade Zama, nice to see you and all the other panelists. Barrister Fru on board as well.
Yes.
Barrister, I can't see you. Where's your picture?
Well, I'm
That's
here.
where you're going to see.
If you are not seeing me, maybe it's by design, but I'm here.
Okay. Barrister, I will also see you face to face. And Commander Elvis,
no, Barrister will be willing to wait for you. I think he's going to have some achu for you when you go to the DMV.
Definitely. Well, we're waiting for him. So greetings, televiewers. It's going to be here on Undaunted. I know I sneaked in informally, but it's always a pleasure being around, being with Ambazonians, people who believe in the cause, and especially being beside this great man. It's an honor. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so you have Commander Elvis here and Commander Zama that we're going to talk a lot on defense. But that I want to shift that for later so that we're able to talk on what is pressing now. Let's look at where we were hoping, Barrister Fru, I'll begin with you, hand the mic to Dr. Yaya and Barrister Mbeseha. The both of them will speak interchangeably when it is their turn. But this is it. We're hoping that Tchiroma was going to be able to pull this and to give us some time to, now they are openly seeking. So it's a major concern, Barrister Fru. When you look at this 1 week after our previous analysis, how do you feel? I begin with you, Barrister Fru.
Yes, Paddy, before I say something, I must comment on your long monologue. Your long monologue gave the impression that I'm in bed with Tchiroma. And hold on. Let me finish. Please.
Yeah.
When Commander Zama ran down Tchiroma, and I took the other side, because you saw with him, you think you can put me on in that spot. Let me tell you, your analysis are wrong. Tchiroma is now in exile in the Gambia, and Gambia is strategically correct because the Gambian president went through the same scenario. And you can sit here in America and pass judgment any way you want to. But let me tell you, Nkomalis is my colleague. The first Cameroonian female lawyer is a spokesperson now for Tchiroma. And if you are putting Tchiroma down that he's not doing anything, he's a failure, you are giving the upper hand to that dictatorial regime that sits in Yaoundé. I will not. Let me tell you, I don't give a fuck about Tchiroma, excuse my language, because he declared during the days of our suffering that there was no Anglophone problem, that there was no shooting in the southern Cameroon, and that was this. What makes you think I make any difference between Tchiroma and Bear? But I want to talk about Tchiroma now, and I'm talking very clearly about him because I want the rebellion that he's building for La République du Cameroon. Let them smell the same coffee my people have gone through. I have gone through. I was in ground zero. I want Tchiroma to be the one. I don't care who he is. I don't care how much he has said. He has denigrated us. But the point is that he is giving Biya the fight that Biya deserves. What makes you think that Biya will be Cameroon as we speak? We are now in the second month, very soon entering the third month. Has he formed a government?
Yeah.
What makes you think that? What makes you think that Tchiroma is ineffective? This is a man running away for his life. He was to be killed in Garwa. He was to be killed. No. Let me finish.
No, I want to be sure that they can get your sound on Facebook. Somebody just sent a message. Let's confirm. Please, guys, let us know if you can have sound. Somebody just said they can't have sound. I'm looking at the comment section just to be sure if it is not just this individual. Please, if you can have our sound, let us know. Please make a comment if you are watching us on social media. If you cannot have our sound, please let us know. Just a moment, guys. Let me be sure. If you cannot hear our sound, okay. Okay, they can get our sound. But Fru, go ahead. Let me check YouTube.
And as I'm saying, I would love nothing but to see conflict in La République du Cameroon. Maybe you don't like the conflict. You don't like conflict in La République du Cameroon, both of you. But I do. I do. And as I tell you now, as I speak, there is an active rebellion. There is an active rebellion being built by the bare fact that Tchiroma ran away for his dear life and is in the Gambia. And you know what happened in the Gambia? It's the same scenario. And in Gambia, he's able to talk to people who matter, those who matter in the world. Those who are Biya's confidants, like the French president and the other big presidents around the world. I'm not going to cite names. He's able to do diplomacy. He's able to talk to people. And everybody in the world knows that Biya lost the result, lost the election. But the impression from your monologue seems to give, oh, Tchiroma is finished, with no creativity. What were you expecting? That immediate fight will take place when he did not prepare an army. Do you know how many times they attempted to kill him in Garwa? And I can tell you, if Biya is not forming a government now, it is not because he doesn't want a government now. It is because it is impossible to form a government now. And it is thanks to Tchiroma. The ground is ungovernable, particularly in the north. We have not been watching the videos of what is happening in Garwa, Marwa, and in Gaundere. You have not been watching the videos of what is happening even in the western province, even in Betwa and Garwa Bulai. So let's not get carried away. That said, and I'll come to your question. Your question was whether La République, Tchiroma, what is the laughter all about? Am I being funny?
We are just it's a discussion. Just to cue.
Am I being funny? If I'm funny, then I might as well stop talking.
No.
Because if somebody is laughing because I'm speaking, meaning that I'm speaking rubbish.
No.
And if that is the case, then I rest my case.
No, meaning that you are being interesting. You know, we could talk and laugh.
Look, Paddy, let me make myself clear. I would love nothing but to have a full-blown war in La République du Cameroon. That will give my people an opportunity to be set free. For those of you who don't see anything coming,
no.
I'm sorry.
But Fru, let me cue you into the question. But Fru, let me cue you into the question. The truth about it is that all of us want the same thing, but probably we're analyzing the current situation differently. In truth, I also want that, but I'm not seeing what you're seeing, which I respect your. I respect your opinion. No. But let me finish. I respect the way you are seeing it, and I'm hoping that it turns out the way you are saying, because that is what we want. So we are not in disagreement. We are just we're analyzing it differently, which is okay because we are different, and then people are seeing it differently. I actually pray, like Mbeseha said last week, we want this to happen for many strategic reasons. So, and I think you've made a very good point there. I want to believe what you're saying, but I find a little bit difficulty to believe it because when I read what Gambia said, you see, he's unable
But you
to
believe
really.
you believe that the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia in exile is effective on the ground, but you don't believe that Tchiroma is effective. Is that what you're telling me? Because he too is in exile.
No, we were able to see results in terms of response. The connection with the people.
You are not saying his results. You are not saying his results.
Tchiroma,
exactly. Because
Tchiroma's stuff, right, has been largely boycotted the last 2 times. We'll come back to that. Let me get the reaction of the other panelists so that we can make progress. Okay, I'll take it to Dr. Yaya and Vice Mbeseha.
No, you go ahead.
Now, if the topic is Tchiroma, we must be careful what we say. It says Tchiroma is not the first person to go in exile for political reasons and come back as a hero. If we don't forget, maybe some of you are too young, there was somebody called Ayatollah Khomeini who fled. He was exiled by the British and the rest. And he went out and stayed out, and when the Shah fell, he came back to create the first Islamic Republic of Iran. He came back as the head of state. And so you don't underestimate Tchiroma. Revolutions sometimes take time. They're sometimes immediate. You could start from a 2D, start from Mvogmaka and run to a 2D. But there are revolutions that you need to start from Kambe, you need to start from Garwa. It will take you months, if not years, to get to a 2D. But the bottom line is that you would have succeeded. Because when Ayatollah Khomeini arrived, the Shah, who had been put there for years, he fled. He had been running the country, he fled. He escaped. And so I don't want us to spend our time litigating on Tchiroma. As I said here on other occasions during the week, Tchiroma is not the Tchiroma that was there 6 months ago. This is not the Tchiroma that we had in government as spokesperson or as Minister of Transport. No. Even in the Gambia where Tchiroma is regarded as a foreign head of state. They know the status there. In exile, he fled because I've said in my own words, what was his crime? His crime is that he won an election. And since you win the election in Cameroon, you become a criminal. They hunt you down. They want to kill you. So we don't try to underestimate what Tchiroma is doing. We don't imagine his tactics. He has some plans, backed internationally, I think. Because otherwise, why did he not just run to neighbor Nigeria? Why did he not just run to neighbor Chad or other countries, Central African Republic? He fled across borders, and some country accepted him with that status as a foreign head of state, running away for his life after having won an elections, whose election had been robbed of him, had been stolen by armed robbers politically. And so that's how we should look at him. In terms of Ambazonia and Cameroon, I will call him the head of state of Cameroon. I'm waiting for the day he will sworn in, and then he will meet us at the discussion table. As simple as that. Many people know, and I also believe, that he is the head of state, he is the president-elect, but he happens to be a criminal for winning an election, because winning an election has never been in the DNA of Cameroon. So that's my take about that. I don't know whether my partner has something to say.
To be honest, I didn't really get the.
Let me cue in Dr. Yaya. Dr. Yaya, I know are you still chief of staff, or maybe because I know the names have changed?
No. Why would it? She's chief of staff. She's chief of staff. Come on.
Okay. No, I want to be corrected. I did
You
that
can call me
intentionally because I
Comrade
want to.
Yaya. That's the most
No,
important
no,
one.
no, Comrade, yeah, not sufficient.
No,
Because I
it's
want to
good.
ask you,
Right.
I want to ask you a question that has to do with your portfolio. Now that
Oh.
President-elect Tchiroma, is in the diaspora and somehow confirmed reports has it that he's trying to collaborate with Ambazonians. Do you think that at this given moment there is any platform between collaboration between President-elect Tchiroma and Ambazonian government? And if so, what kind of collaboration can that be? I know that the lawyers will help
No,
you,
no way.
but I prefer that you
thank,
talk.
thank you very much. That's not my forte, this area. And may I say, of course, diplomacy is managed by the Commission for Diplomacy and the President, above all. Now, talking about collaboration, I'm not sure what that means. If you're talking about discussing about the future of Ambazonia, I think our position has always been clear that we welcome talks. Of course, we have been active or participated in previous talks like the Swiss talks, and La République is the one that abstained. So if Tchiroma wants to talk to us, it's going to be on the same conditions. Nothing has changed. That we're going to sit at a table as equal partners outside, of course, he's outside the country right now, and in the presence of third parties, if I can't call them neutral. So I don't think that's going to change whether the head of the president of neighboring La République is called Paul Biya or Tchiroma. So my able barrister is here to help me. Paddy, don't put me on the spot. This is not my stuff. So I just wanted to greet, and after a while, I'm gonna
Okay,
sneak off.
okay. You sneak onto the end of this program. Let me have Commander Zama please react to this conversation now.
I don't think we've elaborated a lot on President-elect Tchiroma. I think we have to move on with that and see what he does. But one thing that all revolutionaries have to understand is that once you challenge a system, especially a dictatorial system, you've already put a target sign on your chest. You'll be hounded, you'll be
Yeah.
hounded. And no matter what Mr. Biya or Mr. Biya's regime or his gang of thieves try to do. They can imprison him, they can exile him, but they can never exile the revolution. And I just think the people back home should keep the flame burning while waiting for their own Messiah to come. We have to keep our fight going, irrespective of what happens in La Republique. And I hope he does what he must do. But even if he doesn't, it doesn't change anything in our equation.
That's amazing. So we're going to be finding out what is happening in Africa. But before we get into the newsroom to find out that, and then come back to get into the Milan ATAM thing, I want Commander Elvis to say what, please. Commander Elvis, can you hear us?
Yes, Dr. Paddy, thank you. I want to start by thanking my able statesmen, Fru, Mbeseha, Ghana, and Dr. Zama, and Dr. Yaya. Dr. Yaya, it's a pleasure, Asaga.
Sakayodo, Captain.
Very, very good, very good.
Now
So
you guys
thank
should
you
stop
all
that.
for.
You guys, you guys should stop that.
No,
You first of all, you have come
no,
to ABC, you the people of Bui,
please, Dr.
and you have
Paddy, in
hijacked
Namso,
ABC.
in Banso, we
You
respect
you
the
have you
women.
have done
So
something in ABC. Now you have not only done something to ABC, you have taken what is ABC's, and then you have not even compensated for that. You are now want to
Dr. Paddy,
monopolize
don't
it.
go there.
Okay, go
Don't
Take
go
it
ahead.
there.
easy, Dr. Paddy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, Thank you very much. In fact, I was following the discussions, and I have to, I agree with almost every contribution here. Because for Amazonians, we think about what is of best interest to us, right? They say whenever The enemy of your enemy becomes your friend. In this case, whatever suits Ambazonia is what we we would align with. Friends not necessarily as an ally, but somebody that would believe that their part is of best interest to us getting what we desire. We all agree that La Republique, just for the fact that there would be some infighting amongst them, although that there's been disagreements, is already a gain for us Ambazonians, because now we have soldiers of La Republique, terrorists that are in our territory, that are divided, that would not be accepting some illegal orders from La Republique to Cameroon's dictatorial president Paul Biya. And we can also attest that with the current operations in Ambazonia, Operation Final Push, we have seen a whole lot of success lately, and that could speak greatly to the morale of their terrorist elements. That is low. They're putting down their guard, and of course, we take advantage of the situation. Again, that is a positive outcome for us, and it's definitely something that we hope can intensify so that we can actually get our independence sooner than later. I do not support any one person to be, president over there. Is not our interest. I would never stand to support them. I care greatly for our great nation and us building our institutions and making sure that they get out of our country. We would like to have good neighbors. So whoever comes with an olive branch and is able to sit on the table and negotiate with us, other than going through the loss of lives, we would also welcome that. But we have to be very mindful of the fact that some of our rogue elements are actually disguised as La Republique elements who have been hoping to hijack this whole situation and even bring us back to La Republique. You see, there were people that when Tchiroma came up, they ran to embrace him, hoping that he would be handed the elections on a silver plate, and for them to go through the back door and sideline the government of Ambazonia and negotiate with them terms that would favor La Republique. Thank God and God ordained struggle, that did not happen. And we're seeing the revolution now also evolve in their part of the territory. Again, as we look and see how things are evolving, we continue to be resolute that whatever favors Ambazonia is what we stand for. And that is nothing but total independence, whoever wins over there. So on that note, I just want to thank all the barristers for their great input and thank them all again for their great service to our great nation. And Dr. Paddy, hand the mic back over to you.
Okay, we'll be right back. Thank you for that brief expose there. I just wanted to be sure that the newsroom is ready. They've just indicated to me that they are ready. Let's take some reports from across the world and Ambazonia so that it will lay us a foundation for our discussion this evening. We'll be back.
In the wake of President Trump's dramatic immigration freeze and his declaration effectively closing Venezuelan airspace, one question echoes louder than the others themselves. How far can a government go in the name of security before it begins to ignore the human beings caught in the middle? Well, as Trump vows to permanently pause migration from entire regions and retroactively terminate millions of admissions, what becomes of asylum seekers fleeing genuine danger? What becomes of families already en route or those who trusted the United States as a last refuge? The timing raises even deeper concerns. Former Nigerian President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's denunciation of Guinea-Bissau's recent ceremonial coup warns the world about leaders who respond to crises by tightening their grip rather than seeking clarity. So the question becomes unavoidable. Is the United States now reacting to a security incident the same way unstable states react to political chaos, with sweeping, emotionally charged decisions that reshape entire lives overnight? Are these moves rooted in strategy or in impulse? And is the administration addressing the real causes of violence or simply creating new layers of fear and uncertainty for migrants who have no connection to the attack and sparked this decision? As global leaders call for restraint, constitutional process, and protection of vulnerable people, the contrast is stark. Why are the world's most powerful institutions urging caution abroad while the United States rushes headlong into some of its most aggressive immigration measures in years? And who will speak for the innocent migrants, asylum seekers, and displaced families whose futures now hang in the balance of an executive order written in the heat of the crisis? You're welcome to the Global News for today. We'll head into the rest of the briefings. Guinea-Bissau's fragile political order unraveled this week when senior military political order was rivaled. We see military figures depose the country's civilian leadership and installed a transitional administration, prompting regional and international condemnation. Former Nigerian President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who led ECOWAS mediation efforts in the past, publicly denounced the takeover as a ceremonial coup, arguing that the move appears staged to mask wider political maneuvering and warning that it undermines democracy in a country long traumatized by coups and narco-trafficking. Regional bodies moved quickly. The African Union suspended Guinea-Bissau from its activities, and ECOWAS signaled punitive measures while calling for a return to constitutional order. Reports say the military has already begun reshuffling the executive with appointments meant to consolidate control. The background matters. We see that Guinea-Bissau has experienced repeated interruptions of civilian rule since independence, and its geography has made it an important transatlantic corridor for drug flows. A chronic source of instability, the push follows disputed elections in which rival claims to victory left the political scene polarized. The swift military takeover and installation of a new transitional prime minister, it raises immediate questions about the prospects for a negotiated return to civilian rule. If the junta persists, the country faces deeper isolation, economic disruption, and the risk that criminal networks will exploit the political vacuum. The central question is whether ECOWAS and the AU can translate condemnation into effective leverage that restores constitutional authority without plunging the country into deeper conflict or humanitarian need. Now, away from Guinea-Bissau, we see in Belgrade, President Alexander Vučić hosted Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi for a state visit marked by ceremony and the signing of multiple bilateral accords aimed at expanding cooperation across trade, infrastructure, education, and security. The two leaders presided over a plenary session and a ceremonial exchange of 4 newly signed agreements, underscoring Serbia's intent to broaden ties in Africa and the DRC's interest in diversifying diplomatic and economic partners. Analysts have noted that the visit is part of a broader push by both capitals to secure investment, technology transfers, and political backing on international issues. For the Democratic Republic of Congo, which faces persistent governance and security challenges in its eastern provinces, partnerships that bring infrastructure, investment, and training are attractive, provided they are structured to strengthen state capacity rather than create dependency. And for Serbia, the visit bolsters its outreach beyond Europe and signals a willingness to deepen strategic links in Central Africa. The practical implications to watch are whether the signed deals quickly translate into implementable projects, roads, health and education programs, or defense cooperation, and how those projects will be financed. Will these agreements bring jobs and tangible improvements to Congolese communities, or will they primarily serve diplomatic optics and elite networks? That is the question that begs to be answered. But then, with the United States after a deadly attack that targeted National Guard personnel in Washington, President Donald J. Trump announced a string of hardline measures, which is an immediate plan to permanently pause migration from what he termed third world countries, others to review and terminate millions of previous admissions he described as granted under prior administrations, and a directive effectively warning airlines and traffickers that the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela is to be treated as closed. The president made the airspace declaration via social media, and the United States authorities had already issued warnings to airlines about potentially hazardous conditions in Venezuelan airspace. The rapid statements reflect an administration framing of the attack as a trigger for tougher border controls and extra-regional security measures. Now, those declarations carry urgent legal and diplomatic implications. A blanket migration pause and retroactive rescission of prior admissions would face legal scrutiny and logistical hurdles, including the status of people lawfully admitted on the resettlement or asylum programs and the capacity of agencies to carry out mass removals. The Venezuelan airspace pronouncement compounds regional tensions. It risks undermining aviation norms, provoking diplomatic protests from Caracas and allied countries, and complicating commercial and humanitarian flights. Key questions for the coming days is what legal authorities will the administration cite to justify retroactive revocations and mass removal orders? How will the FAA and international carriers react to the closed airspace claim, and what contingency plans exist to protect civil aviation and lawful migrants while security concerns are investigated? These are the questions that linger following this declaration. But then on another front, diplomats reported movement towards a formalization of a peace framework between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, aimed at addressing the long-running M23 insurgency in eastern DRC. The two governments are expected to ratify a deal building on earlier framework agreements signed in multilateral talks that includes commitment on border security, repatriation, and disarmament steps for militia elements. Observers caution, however, that previous framework agreements have had limited immediate effect on the ground, where M23 and other armed groups continue to challenge state authority. Implementation, verification, and local buy-in remain the principal obstacles. Now, what the deal promises is diplomatic terms, is a route towards stabilizing Eastern Congo, which would unlock humanitarian access and create conditions for reconstruction. But the crucial test will be whether guarantees translate into effective demobilization, and whether neighboring states and regional bodies can provide the monitoring and pressure needed. If implementation stalls, the region risks new waves of displacement and cross-border violence. Policymakers must decide how to back the deal with measurable benchmarks and independent verification to avoid yet another paper agreement that does not change daily security realities for civilians in North and South Kivu. But then Dudu Zile Zuma Sambudla, the daughter of former South African President Jacob Zuma, she has resigned from parliament while facing investigations into allegations that she played a role in recruiting South African men who ended up fighting in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. South African authorities are probing claims that dozens of men were lured under false pretenses to serve as bodyguards or in purported training programs and subsequently ended up in combat roles. Zuma Sambudla has said she was deceived and that her own role was non-combatant, and she offered cooperation with authorities as they investigate the recruitment chain. The unfolding probe touches on legal prohibitions against serving in foreign militaries, questions about extremist recruitment networks, and the political fallout for a party formed by her father that has been openly pro-Russia. The case raises a series of complications for South Africa domestically and internationally. Authorities will need to determine whether criminal charges apply, how many citizens were knowingly sent to fight abroad, and which actors or networks facilitated travel and deployment. The wider political implication is also consequential. The scandal risks damaging the credibility of the MK party and complicating South Africa's diplomatic posture, particularly towards Russia. For families of the men involved and for national institutions, the immediate priorities are repatriation, legal clarity, and safeguarding vulnerable recruits from further exploitation. Well, across these stories, a few themes stand out: rapid political shifts from coups to resignation, and renewed attention to how state actors respond, whether through regional sanctions, diplomatic outreach, or executive orders with cross-border effect. The contrast between diplomatic engagement, Belgrade and Kinshasa talking trade and security, and the abrupt instruments of power, a military takeover in Guinea-Bissau, sweeping executive immigration moves in Washington. These all underscores how fragile order can be and how quickly international relations pivot between cooperation and confrontation. What remains to be watched closely is whether signed agreements and public declarations will be followed by implementation on the ground, from investment projects in the DRC to meaningful verification mechanisms for the Congo-Rwanda deal to legal and practical pathways for any U.S. immigration changes, and whether regional and international institutions can enforce norms that protect civilians and preserve constitutional order. On the Homefront reports, the principal of St. Joseph's College in the Lassen Noni local government area has written a formal complaint to the colonial divisional officer of Noni local government area, and he is alleging that some French Cameroon soldiers deployed in the name of protecting the area are now engaging in sexual activities with students who are all minors. According to the letter, several underage students have been approached by these soldiers for romantic or sexual purposes, and there are reports that some learners have been sexually assaulted by the soldiers. The letter, which was jointly signed by the principal, the traditional ruler, and some parents, dated November 17th, stated that certain French Cameroon soldiers have allegedly provided mobile phones to these minors to maintain secret communication, worsening tensions between students, parents, and school authorities. The principal urged the colonial divisional officer to take immediate action, warning that the matter has grown beyond the school's ability to control. According to the letter, the girls are ages 14, 15, 16, and 17. The culprits were identified to be Eric Belsala, Batalza, and Bellarine. Well, while we hope for the panelists to dissect on these sad happenings on the home front, we have another report of a tense confrontation unfolded on Thursday, November 27th, 2025, at the Boya Prison Yard, where magistrates and court registrars from the legal department were attending a wake-keeping ceremony. They were attending a wake-keeping ceremony for the late mother of prison warder Tong Hillary. The incident occurred when the judicial officials arrived at the venue and were instructed by young French Cameroon gendarmes led by a lieutenant to park their vehicles near the Mount Mary entrance, a considerable distance away. The colonial gendarmes were reportedly rude and uncooperative. Even after the officials introduced themselves, the State Council in particular was incensed by the treatment and opted to leave the scene. Despite the heated exchange, the magistrates and court registrars refused to move their vehicles, arguing that the parking spot was reasonable. The situation was eventually diffused when Captain Oyono arrived at the scene. He introduced himself and after a brief discussion allowed the officials to park their vehicle as they wished. The captain explained that the initial instruction was motivated by security concerns, but the officials countered that the designated parking area was unreasonable. The incident highlights the challenges of navigating interagency relationships and the importance of clear communication and mutual respect, something that seemed absent in this scenario. But to another very striking report of tonight, we're taking a look at the Unity Warriors. The group known as the Unity Warriors emerged in 2022, becoming one of the most talked about armed factions operating across several counties in southern Cameroon. Their formation followed a period marked by shifting alliances, internal disputes, and growing mistrust amongst different self-defense groups. The story begins when Field Marshal No PT, previously operating in Ngoketunja County, relocated to Bui County while evading military pressures after a series of confrontations. Upon arrival, he was received by the Bui warriors under the leadership of Field Marshal Nsoh, who offered him temporary protection and operational space. At the time, Bui was already experiencing internal tensions, particularly between the Bui warriors and the ADF aligned group led by a commander known as Big Number. Now, this clash is intensified following earlier incidents, including the killing of General Manu Taiga, which had already strained relations among local fighters. Now, reports indicate that disagreements eventually surfaced between FM No PT and FM Nsoh. Some fighters from the Bui warriors joined No PT without formal approval, and several were later killed in clashes, deepening the rift. The dispute ended with FM No PT breaking away and forming a new faction, the Unity Warriors, recruiting from fighters frustrated by previous internal conflict and promising them improved support and supplies. Leadership of the Bui Unity Warriors was handed to Mad Dog, a former Bui Warriors fighter. From this point, the group rapidly grew in influence across Bui, Nkoketsunja, and later other counties including Fako, Meza, Boyo, and Ndian, with some local camps reportedly joining for security or survival reasons. Now, during this period, allegations circulated about targeted killings, forced allegiance, internal power struggles, and strained relations with community leaders. One high-profile event often referenced is the arrest and later release of the Fon of Bambalang, which raised questions about the influence and decision-making processes surrounding the Unity Warriors leadership structure. While some argue that the group's activity contributed to a breakdown of coordination between frontline fighters and diaspora-led institutions, some others argued that the Unity Warriors lacked a clearly defined chain of command consistent accountability measures, or established political direction. Financially motivated arrests and internal clashes were frequently cited as concerns. Some analysts also link the rise of similar groups, including the APLC, to the fragmentation that followed the Unity Warriors expansion, which is a fragmentation that resulted in significant losses amongst fighters across multiple counties. In contrast, the Ambazonian State Army, ASA, positions itself as the structure seeking a more formal command hierarchy. Supporters of the Ambazonian State Army argue that clear county, local government area, and federal lines of authority are essential for long-term stability and for any future political negotiations. They highlight their code of conduct and post-war integration plans designed to provide social support for fighters and their families, similar to reintegration frameworks used in post-conflict environments around the world. But the central question remains: what does the rise and fragmentation of groups like the Unity Warriors mean for coordination on the ground? And how will these competing structures shape the broader security landscape as communities, factions, and political actors continue navigating an already complex conflict environment? And these are the questions that we'll have to leave to our news director, Mr. Tarh, Paddy, and the rest of his panelists, including Commander Elvis, who is also the leader of the Bowie County Ambazonian State Army. We'll leave this over to you now, Mr. Tarh Paddy King.
Okay, we're back. I think we will begin from the bottom, and I'll take it really quickly with you, Barrister Fru. The government has really explained the strategic significance of the Ambazonian State Army. We've evolved from at the time of the ASC and Amba Boys and terrible name Changshoes. We know the mayhem that is caused when there is disorganization on the ground. The cost is always blood, is always division, is always chaos. The word unity warrior from a distance and from a strange person would sound good, but it comes with a lot of disunity. And the actors always behind are not really people that seek for the actual independence of Ambazonia. So it's worrisome to see the re-emergence of the unity warrior at this time. Barrister Fru, please.
Yes, Paddy, as we move towards resolving this our quagmire, the struggle, we cannot help but ponder that after the so-called unity warriors were annihilated, after when no pity was put away, I don't know these palace unity warriors that are surfacing now. Like the president said, if you are fighting on the ground and you are not a member of the Ambazonian State Army, you are a gunman. And when the time comes, you will be treated as a gunman. And a gunman is a terrorist. A gunman without a chain of command, without a government that sustains it, is a terrorist. So I will leave the rest of the analysis to the military specialists that we have on this platform. But let me say that these people, when they see success in the air, they find a way to dampen. They find a way to come in and spoil us. Because I don't understand. The Ambazonian State Army has been fighting and has put things in order in all of Ambazonia, only for a certain group, the remnants of ADF, together with some disgruntled and nonchalant Ambazonians living abroad here, will go on the ground and call themselves unity warriors, or they call them palace warriors, whatever they call. They are present in Faku, unfortunately. They are present in Bui, and I trust that Commandant Elvis and his troops will handle that situation. I don't know what else to say other than that. They are gunmen, and a gunman is a terrorist.
Like you have rightly said, the commanders will be able to give us clarity and more information on the stakes involved and propose the possible solutions that can be employed. I'll take it now to the Chief of Staff, Ambassador Mbeseha, to talk to us from the lens of administration and governance in this regard. Ambassador Mbeseha, please.
Well, I'm sure the two of us here don't have the competence.
Thank you.
Luckily, we have Commander Elvis
Right.
and we have Shea Yimbo there. That is their game. They know the job. It's a difficult job, but we hope they will up to the task. Rather than waste our time on that, we'll defer our time to them to use it to explain if they need so. But it's a rare problem. Over to you.
Okay, before I come to you, Commander Zama, I want Elvis to make an assessment of the actual collateral damage or the benefits that might come with this whole core unity warriors. Who are the actors? If you have any information, what could actually be the reason for it? Is it that they have not been sufficiently educated? Why would they choose a path that we have seen before? It's like a movie you've watched and you've placed the replay, and you've rewind and you're placing the replay. So there are lots of concerns involved because of the sour taste we get at every given moment. We hear this or feel the scent of anything unity or unity warrior. Please, Commander Elvis.
Thank you very much, Director Paddy, for that question. And I would really plead that you give me some time to kind of dive into the etymology. I was very pleased with the report. I think Star Smart did an excellent job there with that report of the Unity Warriors, how it originated. That was actually 100% accurate. Knowing where it came from and the circumstances that surrounded that, it gives a bitter taste actually to a lot of Ambazonians. Especially when we lost one of our best. No Pity was one of the best that Ambazonians had. FM Isubu, one of the best that Ambazonians had. And when No Pity was working under the county structure, following the chain of command, he was doing great until that moment where, that division came in. And, spoilers used that opportunity to now through a different narrative, convince him otherwise, told him that he had the potential to become the president and he should not listen to anybody out there who was not holding a weapon. That was the beginning of the much longer story that we are talking about today. The way No PT operated was very technical. You could tell from his ability in the field that he was a very capable fighter. Somebody that was feared, admired by so many, just like FM Isubu. And unfortunately, again, La Republique was looking to always strike fights between our great fighters because if you look at the Ambazonian War of Independence, you see that most of our great fighters fell from their own swords. It was not the enemy that killed them, it was only from within. And that proxy was what they took that opportunity to come up with, right? So in that sense, once the Unity Warriors was formed, they came out actually against FM Isubu. So it was not really a united force to fight La Republique. They were looking for a common denomination, and that common denomination there was the hate for whosoever was a part of the structure for which they wanted to destroy. Destroying the structure meant they having their own financial gains without having to give any accountability. And that is why I'm always enforcing to every county in Ambazonia that those counties need to keep a clear record of all the atrocities committed by any fighter. That means any fighter in that county is an element of that county or the local government area, which falls under the county, and in turn is an integral part of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. And anybody fighting for or under that local government area, under that county, has to be held accountable for any crimes that they commit. We have seen that some fighters have used this opportunity where they disregard the rules of conduct, which is, of course, their code of conduct, and they do not want to be held responsible when they commit any actions, and they don't want to fall under any structure for the sake of not being held accountable. And that is why you see a lot of those that went to the unity water that were promised to become president at some point, now despising anybody that is of other authority. But the technical question, or the question that we ask all of them is, yes, we are in a revolution, and we all understand that this revolution would end in negotiations. Would they be able to leave the bush to come and negotiate? We do have a government that has a political wing, that has what it takes to negotiate outside of maybe the battlefield. If they, as unity warriors, are being lied to have no chain of command, where the buck stops with you, you want to control fighters, but you don't want to listen to advice from anybody, that should tell you something. That is the mindset of somebody who is a criminal, because you don't want to be held accountable for anything. And our continuous education, unfortunately, might have not been enough. We understand the limitations of some of our fighters. It takes time to educate them. But again, these are all our state men and women. Sometimes it just takes us longer to educate them. But we can also attest that that education is vigorously ongoing. Unfortunately, we still see some elements trying to recruit, especially when we start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. We have all those La Republique agents that try to amplify or push for the idea of a unity warrior that has no chain of command. That is basically falling into La Republique's strategy of making sure that we do not present a united front which is able to challenge them in any way, shape, or form. And whenever we come out as divided, then we lack a clear stance, or whenever we come out with some forces not paying allegiance to to the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, they then put in question which other leaders are there, right? And that is where La Republique wants us to be. They want us to be divided. I wish our fighters, our great fighters, like the ones that took over from No Pity, that they could go back to when No Pity was No Pity, when he was brought up by his county, coached by his county, mentored, advised, provided some assistance. Unfortunately, yes, when we go back to talk to some of these fighters, the first question they always want to ask is, what have you been able to support us with? Right? A lot of them have this notion that we as a government already have some financial resources in place that we can just give them the materials that they desire. We all know how we go around to solicit for support, and the county structures which were built basically to raise funds to support them, how we have put so much effort to be able to get the assistance that we get to execute these wars, right? Unfortunately, a lot of our men and women back home, they don't have this knowledge, and sometimes it's very difficult to really take time and explain to them the details of how our resources are managed. To understand that even when we get resources, we also have diplomacy. We have our refugees that we have to take care of. We have the farmers that we have to take care of. And it's a whole lot of other activities other than just providing the resources to our farmers now to do what they have to do. We understand that is the number one priority. But there are other situations that we have to also put in our resources to, especially as a government, because you're responsible for everybody. And I keep on telling them, whether Unity Warrior or whosoever you fall under, know that you fall under the Federal Republic of Ambazonians government, and it is your responsibility to act accordingly. We cannot allow rogue elements to be roaming our territories. We know that yes, they now have the weapons. They could speak louder. There's little that maybe some fighters could do other than just obey and fall in line.
Yes. Yeah.
But for the most part, a lot of fighters do not want or do not stand for the Unity Warriors because they know that there is no clear leadership. They do not provide a way forward. They do bring a situation where they say, okay, you are fighting for somebody, right? For example, when they say you're fighting, okay, well, maybe you could ask Dr. Yaya, please, to mute, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
So I
I've
was
muted Dr. Yaya. Dr. Yaya and Barrister Mbeseha, you guys are live on TV. Go ahead, Commander Elvis, so that we can hear from Commander Zama, please.
okay. Yes. So I was explaining the fact that a lot of these fighters back home, once they understand that the umbrella Ambazonian State Army is there to protect them, is there for their safety, they would align. They would align in the sense that, number one, if you fight as a Unity Warrior fighter and you are not obeying the chain of command for your county leadership or for the federal government, tomorrow, when it's all said and done, your family would be left behind. Who would be responsible for them? We've already created a system in place where Ambazonia come tomorrow would be like Americans after World War II, where they had what they call the GI Bill, right? Where you go to the families of the service members and you provide support, be it free education, provide support so their families can also benefit from the sacrifices of those that they left behind. So these are all
So
things
if I
that
do understand, Commander Elvis, let me come in there. You have a lot of questions to take that will help you to buttress all the points. If I do
sure.
understand, you're critical of this whole formation because you feel they are not looking at the bigger picture, the long-term goals and the plans.
Yes.
If I also listen to you, some of them are having some grievances, which are issues that you have assert that the NSC and government can address. So before I come back to you on that, I want to ask Commander Zama to talk to us. The picture that has been painted and the observations you've had in this regard and with what is happening on the ground for quite some time. What do you think could be the sentiments or the agitations that lead to these fragmentations as we move ahead with this whole thing?
I think the more we want to have one unified command, it's very difficult in a revolution. In every given revolution, there have always been factions. There's not a single one that's been homogeneous. The Unity Warriors, as they term themselves, it's a feeble group that they just gather people when need be and have them say they are Unity Warriors. You can see the last thing they had was Unity Warriors, Bali Unity Warriors, Batibo Unity Warriors. All those people didn't act they didn't act in an operation that amounted to what it was. That is people back home, the soldiers back home, they are friends, which no matter what side of the equation they are all friends. and they tend to go to these fights as a group and not as a defined unity warriors. But some of them they will take these weapons and say, "Oh, this is what we've taken seized from the La Republique troops, and this is what," and they go from one group to the other. It's just a way to siphon money from different people and different times. But we want them to be safe. We don't want them to be attacking each other. If that's the best way they can do it, fine. But I don't think as unity warriors, as they call themselves, it's a misnomer from the original unity warriors that we know. And they can flaunt it as they like. There's a lady called Titi who comes up, and each time these things come, any fight that comes up on Facebook, she hands it and labels it unity warriors and make them call the people to say they are. They do have these kids who they can control, and they make them do what they want to do in terms of those videos. I don't think there's much to it to buy, because our citizens understand what are really the differences. Who are those who are protecting them and who are those who are not? And sometimes some of these groups are not doing the best protection to our citizens, and it's still a problem within our community, where we have these bandits and thugs who go around and they steal, and when they are just about to be caught, they say they are Ambas. Amba is just a generic name that even La Republique soldiers who are in a wing, they have a gang of about 20 people who are from Kedeya in the north, who just go around rolling and stealing and killing people. In the daytime, they wear the uniform, and in the night, they go out as a group of thieves. So Amba is just a generic, and Unity Warrior is coming to that generic term too.
You see, a lot of Ambazonians are actually waiting tonight to hear us what we're going to say on the issue regarding Milan, ATAM Milan. And I want to ask you this question, Commander Elvis, to conclude on this issue so that we can get all us into that letter or memo sent out. Is it a press communique or something? Milan trying to educate the Ambazonian community with his falsehood rhetoric. But this is it. Indicting the name of TT gives a clue that can be likened to what we have seen before. Like I said earlier on, this is a movie that has played before us before, and we are seeing it again. Where you have individuals loyal to government structures and who have access to some of these people, they abuse institutions. They have some of these boys that are loyal to them, and they're the ones instigating, maneuvering, and doing all of this in spite of the consequences. As we speak right now, I'm not ignorant of what TT is doing and his guys. They work together in tandem. What I want to know from the NSC, and with your reaction also, Commander Zama, after Elvis, is aside from just allowing this play before us again, are we comfortable enough to say that the new framework the government is using to ensure the way things should be going can, in a long term, because we don't really want this war to extend, let's say in the short term, 6 months or a year, can it help to contain this, save the lives of more of these fighters, and make some of them see reasons that these structures are not just meant to control them, but to help them protect their lives in the effort of safeguarding our sovereignty? I begin that with you, Commander Elvis.
Thank you again, Director Paddy, for that great question. That question is a little difficult to answer in the sense that you give a timeline there, right? A lot of our fighters, as we know, have gone through stages in this revolution where at this point you can definitely see that their death rates have been greatly minimized. We wish they had all this education long time ago. We would have saved a lot of lives. Sometimes you can't really tell how soon the policy, especially one that requires knowledge training, could be transferred. And that is why we're here, to make sure that we educate our fighters, we educate the population, so that they understand what long-term benefits are whenever you have a structure. The structure that actually has an end goal in sight, a structure that has all the pillars that are required for us to get our independence. Like I mentioned earlier, it is not just about fighting with guns, but it's also on the diplomatic front. We do need our fighters to be united to give us that diplomatic leverage for us to take to the diplomatic table. However, divided force is also very difficult for us to maybe coordinate, or maybe pass standing orders that can be respected all across the board. But we are confident that if we continue in this line, we want everybody on board. We want everybody to, just like we had some rogue elements back in the days of the ADF, who just joined the fight because of their aspiration to free Ambazonia, and they didn't know what the group was all about, and it took a lot of education for some to actually realize that they were actually in a bad group, right? So it also is going to take that education for us to let some of these fighters who might be genuine, that fall under this trap of joining unity waters without having a clear purpose or clear directives. To their leaders, a lot of credit goes to our late Vice President, Mr. Eric Ate, may his soul rest in peace, and the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. They were very instrumental, and even reaching out to these some of these fighters that call themselves the Unity Warriors. Whenever they do some great work, they reach out to them and provide support of some sort, be it moral, financial, however it is. They make sure that they do not go completely astray, and that they are still recognized as fighters that we hope they would be able to change course and move in the right direction. Remember, before all this happens, you all heard the etymology of the Unity Warriors. Most of these, especially those in Bui, were under the Bui Warriors. They were fighting under Bui Warriors, very proud. But the enemy saw that opportunity to, bring that division in between that great fighting force. We are hoping that, and we can see definitely that, under the command structure of some of our great SAA, like Major General Talk and Do, you can see a clear leadership structure there. You could see a clear chain of command, and you could see a clear vision. This is not somebody that goes around arresting or kidnapping people. He's somebody that is known for his leadership role, and we hope that that example can be extended. We hope that others can be able to see and know that this is the Ambazonia that you want tomorrow. Somebody that has those kind of leadership skill. Those that call themselves Unity Warriors, speaking with most of them, the idea of running away from being, from being confronted when they carry out actions that are anti-revolutionary is what they bask on. So nobody can come to ask them any questions. That is the challenge that we're having, to convince these boys that it is not about you getting any financial gains. It is not about the government paying you, because ultimately, you being in the county or local government area, you are sponsored by the people that are there. And the government, as we know, is people for the people by the people. So if you are part of the government, or you're collecting money from these people, you are already part of the government. So you cannot collect money and then you come out and say you're not a part of the government. So that is the education that we will have to make sure that these fighters understand, and it don't come across like they are trying to fight the government, which is not a good visual for all of us, right? So I believe we would get them on track. I just believe we have to be also open to understanding some of the challenges that they face, even though we cannot resolve all the issues. but we have to be open to communicate and also educate, which is very important. On that note, I am very positive. Again, whenever we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we always have some stepping stones that maybe become stumbling blocks for us. But I believe we will be able to step over this one this time around. We had ADF at one time. Now we don't even talk about such. So definitely, Unity Warriors is just something that would also dissolve with time, and I'm very positive about that. On that note, Director Paddy, I would hand over the microphone to my colleague to also usher in some words.
Yes, the idea was how are we going about it, Commander Zama, and how sustainable is it? How can we minimize the loss of lives that this same move has done before? And looking at the framework in front of you, how confident are you that this can be contained within the shortest time possible? Nobody wants this war forever.
I don't think it's a war that's gonna be forever. The good thing is that we are trying to make these young men and women to understand that a war of attrition is not to anyone's benefit. Whether they are Unity Warriors or whatever group or outfit they are, we want them to fight the way they have to fight. Let them fight the enemy and not the enemy in between them. We are educating them. We are keeping them abreast of what is supposed to be done and what ought to be done as soldiers protecting the people of Ambazonia. It's not that there are some who are not going to want to be within the framework of command structure because they are thugs. They catch people and hold them for ransom, and that's something that we cannot really control. Our job is to be able to help them, keep them safe from each other, keep them safe from the enemy. And for those who listen, will be safe. For those who can't listen, most of those who did not listen to us, many of those fighters have actually given way from this earth. They've been killed either by their own actions or by traitors who tell their places of hiding to the enemy. So we are making them to understand that working as a team with a command structure does not necessarily stop them from what it is, but it gives them some cover in case there's something that comes. We can defend them if we must. But if they are acting out of that role, we cannot really defend them. But that's where the education comes in, and we are talking a lot to these kids. A lot of them, some of them are under the influence, and they just do what they have to do. But the influence is really from a lot of people from other parts of the world who want to contest. From their perception, they think the people in America are controlling the soldiers down on ground zero, and they want a piece of that action and take pride in that command structure there. But at the end of the day, we tell them we are not fighting this war. They started this war back home and invited us to help. We are just helping. We are just a placeholder for them to express that they are the ones giving their blood and sometimes their money too to fight and liberate this place for us that we call home. We are just trying to encourage them to be civil to each other and do what they must do to protect our people and themselves. Anything out of that, we don't have any control over.
That's a great one right there. We're moving into this subject that was in the introduced. It has to do with Milan ATAM, and I think I really like Dr. Yaya to be here because
before you do that, Paddy, let me add something. Just a very short, yeah. For what is happening, let the Unity Warriors know that the policy of this government is not to arm anybody that we cannot disarm. The time will come when the United Nations Interposition Force will be called in to disarm them. And there will be a dichotomy between the Ambazonian State Army, which is controlled by the government, And these other rock groups that call themselves, whether they are warriors or whatever they are, will be considered armed men and will be dealt with as armed men and treated as terrorists. So that is the small thing I wanted to add.
Amazing. So we moving forward, and the most what really brought us here. It's about ATAM Milan. I'm sure some of us would have read his write-up, which I have it right in front of me. And there's just a portion there that I want to read out. It will help us to lay down the foundation for the conversation. So the objective of this write-up by Milan was to rubbish the whole idea of a unification. First of all, we know, or unity, and that a lot of people are calling for unity, blah, 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 blah. And he gave some reasons why he thinks that the unity is a fail. So he made some statements. He says to many of them, Skakov needed to die. Simply, that means after he has criticized everybody. To many of them, Skakov needed to die simply because it did not offer them personal glory. I don't know why he's indicting personal glory, because we saw him giving himself a lot of glory during that era. 9 years later, so some of these same voices are again calling for a Skakov type. I don't know what these voices, what they are doing, where they are. A Skakov type structure, another grand assembly to save the revolution. I don't know who has called Milan ATAM to save the revolution that he abandoned more than 6 years ago. Regrettably, it will not work. So Milan happens to be a messiah that knows what can work and what will not work. The landscape, maybe he's correct there, because this government also believes that the format of unity people are requesting for will not work. So he says, the landscape has changed dramatically. This is where what caught my interest. The landscape has changed dramatically, and let me tell you why. In 2017, the leaders were brought together, disagreed, disliked, and destructed each other, but they did not have blood on their hands. So he's directly accusing some people. Today, many of those being proposed for unity are individuals who have the blood of our people on their hands, and some have been indicted for crimes against humanity, linked to kidnapping for ransom operations. So Milan is actually throwing some people under the bus right here, accused of fraud and collaboration with the Biya regime around plantation deals. This was a direct attack to President Sako, because he's the one Nanchop and Chris Anu. I brought the deal, presiding over criminal cartels. So he's calling our volunteers that are defending and sanctifying the struggle criminal cartels. I don't know what Milan really thought they wanted to do. Was it to sell us to La République du Cameroon, responsible for character destruction, and you want me to add my name to that list? Milan forgot to tell us that he was the commander-in-chief of Divide in the struggle, where he created Scoop just a few days after Sisiko Julius Ayub Tabe and 10 members of cabinet were mysteriously kidnapped from Nigeria. So this is the baseline of the discussion I want us to have this evening. And this is where I think, Mr. Fru, you were a lawyer of the NERA 10. You have an idea of what happened. Mr. Mbeseha was a member of government and knows how the structures were working at the time. And Dr. Yaya, myself, and the others were in the communications department. So we have some details here that we can talk and talk very lengthily. But then let me begin with you, Mr. Fru, before we get to the commanders.
Yeah, Paddy, you may, all of us should know that I was in Abuja for 5 times with my legal team from the home front. And I talked a lot with Nigerian lawyers. I talked a lot with people in Nigeria. And I want to say here clearly that the origin of the kidnapping of our people, 10 of them led by Ayuk Tabe, was orchestrated by ATAM Milan. Let me explain. ATAM Milan sat wherever, whether it's South Africa or in England or wherever it was, and suddenly called on Ayuk Tabe, telling Ayuk Tabe that there is a team coming from the United Nations that will meet Ayuk Tabe and La Republique team, and that they will in Nigeria, and that they will negotiate the end of the conflict. At that time, there was really no conflict other than the fact that they were kidnapped, the fact that our people were being chased up and down. And Ayuk Tabe listened to him because he was his Secretary General. And he gave the assurance to Ayuk Tabe that an envoy has been sent from the United Nations that will be in that meeting, and that Ayuk Tabe should hurry back to Nigeria, organize that meeting in one of the prominent hotels in Nigeria, and that's the NERA hotel. By the way, I sat exactly where they were waiting for their fish to be roasted and for them to eat and drink in NERA hotel. I went there with a group of Nigerian lawyers, about 4 of them, I think 3 or 4 of them. Paddy, this story was told me by lawyers, and we lawyers communicate with each other a lot. He said Ayuk Tabe came to Nigeria for a meeting, and when he got to Nigeria, he took his trusted lieutenants, Patasang, Pa Fongalafo, and the rest of it, you name them. Professor Awasum and so on, and got this my small country girl who is Bakary Pat Mancon, Nalova B, who was Ayuk Tabe's trusted secretary, to organize the meeting, to clean up and put the logistics together for that meeting to take place. And ATAM Milan was supposed to leave South Africa, and Ayuk Tabe leaving from the United States. They were supposed to meet in NERA hotel on this particular date that they were waiting there. What did ATAM Milan do? After he had sold them to La République du Cameroon through his negotiations with La République and certain elements in Nigeria, he carefully did not arrive on time. But he did arrive in time to join them in NERA hotel. But what happened? He stayed him in Lagos, in a hotel in Lagos, because he knew exactly what was going to take place. And when our people were picked up, kidnapped, and taken to an underground detention center in DSS in Nigeria, ATAM Milan stayed 1 more day in Lagos and took a flight to Abuja, went to NERA hotel, and the receptionist in NERA hotel told him what had happened. He still checked in and had a room just near where the others were, and slept there overnight, and the following morning he vamoosed. ATAM Milan is a fraud. He's a double dealer. He is the worst thing that ever happened to this revolution. If he will not tell us why he was not in that NERA hotel with the others, and why did he arrive late, all the bullshit that he missed his hotel, his plane and his flight and so on, was all bullshit. Because from South Africa to Nigeria, the route is very, very smooth. If you miss a flight, it is your own doing. But I don't think he missed any flight. He arrived Lagos and stayed there. So what lesson is he trying to teach us? What lesson is he, that is nonsense that is writing? What is he trying to say? That will let ATAM Milan laughter again in this revolution in any shape or form? That will not happen. He's a traitor, like his grandparents from Pumban. He is part Mancon, part Pumban. His mother is from Pumban. His father is a Mancon man. ATAM Milan is a very dangerous character. Because when Siseko was locked up, within a week, ATAM Milan formed his, what do they call it again? What do they call that, his organization again? He formed it. He didn't take him any time to conceive and form that organization, and ran it for quite some time and then abandoned and went into hiding. Now he's on his back. He's back to tell us a cock and bull story. He's a very dangerous character.
I think having you to have spoken the first was the best thing because of this account you have given to us. We've heard this before, but it's important for us to refresh the minds of people who might wonder why he choose to react when he would make preposterous statements in write-ups like the one that has been running around media platforms. Mr. Mbeseha, please, before I ask the next question, I'd like you to talk on this. It's quite strange that ATAM Milan happens to have a very intimate relationship with Siseko in spite of these gray lines, which has made a lot of Ambazonians to feel that there's something about these two that nobody knows. Why, in spite of this questionable meeting that he enhanced, you, Siseko, you are in prison suffering. Is there anything that you need to tell us? Milan Siseko relationship is quite strange. Mr. Mbeseha, please.
I don't know what we're analyzing. Are we analyzing Milan ATAM or his idea of unity? People are calling for unity, he says. So, what unity are they calling for? And who is supposed to unite? Are they calling for individuals to unite or for groups to unite? Either way, Milan ATAM says no, he doesn't like the unity. Because for his first reason, he says, the situation has changed and changed dramatically. He's perfectly right there. So we cannot go back to it. I would rather agree that I would rather discuss some of the reasons that he gives, which are factually wrong, than to address his personality. Yeah, they captured Siseko. Happened to have been in the first meeting that Zoom that Siseko participated from prison. And the question was asked to him, what happened? Siseko said, what do you want to do? What difference does it change? Siseko himself never told us why he was adopted. Unfortunately, whatever thing they were trying to do in NERA Hotel, it ended up badly. They are themselves victims of it. They are in prison. They are in prison in Yaoundé. I've tried, and many of us have tried, through different people there, even those in prison, to tell us what they were doing in NERA Hotel. Nobody has told us anything. So whatever thing happened to them is a cup of tea. I don't bother myself about that. Because again, they took them. They don't want us to know. They can keep the story for themselves. But we should not go to Milan ATAM for the reasons he has given. If he had betrayed his friend, that's between them. It was his best aid. He's lucky he didn't go out. They have not blamed him that, well, this guy did us. That's their problem. He has given some of the reasons that are not necessary. He has given the reason, for example, that he asked me to unite with those people dealing, for example, with the CDC deal. In other words, people who have frauded money, who have cheated people. And he's talking to us in this government now, the President Sako. That's the issue I would like to address more than to waste my time on other things that are not important. He says all that, but Milan Atam should never be one of these people who will come out to criticize anyone for financial impropriety in this revolution. Because during the time of Sisiko, that he was his right-hand man. In fact, he was the man in power. He was like Madame Chantal Biya ruling the country in the name of the president. Financial accountability was the least he could account for. Those of you who attended the fourth conclave in Zaria, remember there was a fight there, a very big fight, a financial fight. What was the fight over? The fight over was the creation of the SCBC. That was supposed to be sponsored by South Africa, headed by Milan Atam. That money was contributed, it was supposed to go into Skapak for money to come out of there to go start funding the SCBC. The money was instead directed to Milan Atam. That action of Milan Atam financially almost caused a fight there between Harriet Fomanchi, Mbianda for Skapak, and Milan Atam. To the extent that at the close of that meeting, the fourth conclave, they wrote what their resolutions. In general, no money was stolen. In general, we have nothing to do anymore with Skapak. It is written there in their resolutions of that conclave. They dumped Skapak. That was the financial giant, the treasury of the revolution until that time. What money was in Skapak, we don't know where it is today. But because they dumped Skapak, they created a treasury that belonged to Tabian, appointed by Sisiko with the complicity of Mr. Milan Atam. What has happened to the money in the treasury, we don't know. So as far as money is concerned, Mr. Milan's hands are not clean. He cannot criticize anyone for that purpose. Other than that, again, since Milan Atam left, since 2018, January 5th, when they adopted Sisiko, has Milan Atam been in the struggle anywhere? Has he really formed a group to fight in any form or shape? He hasn't formed one, to the best of my knowledge. If he has no group, and they are appealing people to come together, is he inclusive? Are they appealing to individuals that they go and look for you in your house and say, just come and join? Or they are asking those people who are participating to come together? I'm sure they're asking for those people who are fighting, directly or indirectly. Milan Atam is not fighting any war, to the best of my knowledge. But the bigger problem that they have is Milan Atam is based in South Africa. The adoption of Sisiko dealt South Africa a dead blow. South Africa was the headquarters of the revolution. But with the adoption of Sisiko, the headquarters of the revolution moved to the United States. And they have never been able to live with that. They will do everything and anything possible to discredit anything that comes from Washington, D.C., because they are no longer in control. When they were defending the Sisiko, President Nsoh knows this. They plotted from South Africa to give money, which they gave without consulting us here, because they wanted to destabilize the defense team that was set up right here. And so Milan Atam has all that. What he has said to a certain extent is right. The thing has moved beyond thinking of coming together. For example, what they created in the Zara, in fact, he talks about Skakov. That's where they started. Skakov died and gave birth to the governing council. The governing council died and gave birth to the interim government. Doesn't anyone regret the dissolution of SCACUF. No, it was a process. Does anyone regret the dissolution of a governing council? No, it was the right process. And they formed an interim government, which was endorsed by Milan. That interim government is what has transformed today, that we speak, to the Ambazonian government in exile. And so let them take credit for what they did there and accept that the thing has moved beyond coming back. The thing has transitioned to a level that we cannot talk about coming back together. Because we're not coming back to revive SCACUF. We're not coming back to revive the governing council. We're not coming back to revive the interim government. All those things are dead. But as far as we're concerned, sitting here talking for the federal government in exile, I think we have taken the best steps. We might not have been in SCACUF. We might not have been in the governing council. We probably were not even there in the interim government. But what they did was good for the time. What they did in Zaire on the 30th of October 2017 was the best thing that they could ever do, to form something called the government, even though it was interim. Because you are on the fear of the word government. And because you are on the fear of the word government, we have perfected the word government from interim government to full-fledged government in exile, which makes Yaoundé to throw up. They are angry. Tactically, we have defeated them in that anger. So Milan ATAM is history. To me, it's history. If he decides to come back to the fight and meet us right here, we don't reject people. They come and toe the line, like in other Ambazonia. But those who are calling for unity are even calling Milan ATAM. I think they have missed the point. In revolutions, we move forward. We don't look back. That's why SCACUF cannot be revived. In revolutions, we move forward. We don't move back. That's why the governing council cannot be revived. It cannot move back. That's why the interim government cannot be revived. We are where we are. And those who are in the struggle should meet us here. We strategize going forward. If there's something we want to change, we'll change together. If they're not there, let them be where they are. Let them be where they are. But as far as we're concerned, I buy his view that we cannot unite in that way that he's thinking. About that, we have moved far from the point that the people are calling for us. Because these are saying, let us unite. They are thinking of forming something else, which is what Milan ATAM has been doing. They have been holding meetings to form something else, other than the interim, the government they created on the 30th of October 2017, which will not work. Which will not work. I'm surprised that he didn't call us to come and join him in that platform. I don't know what they call it, where they just met in South Africa and so on and so forth. And so, again, I don't want to belabor the point. Whatever happened in NERA 10 is a cup of tea. The guys who wanted to betray us or wanted to do something for us ended up in jail, and they're still in jail. They have refused to tell us. Remember the little girl, Nalova? I've talked to her. I personally assisted in the government to make her leave Nigeria. She wanted money. People were refusing because they wanted her to tell us the story. It is me who said, look, if we don't pay her the transport, she said she was going to Botswana. And she died there, they will blame us. We paid her the transport. She still wanted $11,000 for the bond that she claimed somebody who took her out on bail will pay. I'm the one who said no. If they catch that guy, because he have escaped, we'll get lawyers to defend him. And she merited. She was the secretary who gave her invitation papers. She has never talked to us. She has refused to tell us the story. And so, again, that's the cup of tea.
Yeah.
Over to you.
You've belabored the point. You've really done it well.
Let me add a little thing that I forgot.
Briefly, please. Go ahead.
Yes. The objective of that meeting in NERA Hotel, I did everything while I was defending Ayuk Tabi for 10 months. Every week that we met, I asked him that question. He said, what difference does it make? But I finally got the answer when I went to Abuja. The idea that ATAM Milan put to Seseko was that they were going to get 300 million francs CFA coming from Cameroon to settle this matter so that we go back and they have a federation and we'll say where we were. Number two, ATAM Milan met with the Cameroon ambassador to South Africa several times. Several times. What were they talking about? ATAM Milan got himself enriched in South Africa because of the Naira 10. And that's why he delivered them. He fulfilled his part of the bargain. Because Rene Sadi and Atanganji had been to Nigeria several times trying to negotiate this matter. They didn't know how to go about it until they met this general who caused the arrest when Buhari was out of the country. ATAM Milan knew about a financial transaction that he was supposed to benefit for if that meeting went successfully. He told Ayuk Tabe. But he had gotten his cut right from South Africa through the South African, the Cameroon ambassador to South Africa. ATAM Milan should tell Ambazonian people what he got from South Africa, from the Cameroon embassy in South Africa. What was it that he was organizing the meeting in NERA Hotel all about? And Ayuk Tabe should tell us why he was meeting in NERA Hotel. And I want to tell you, some of the people that are in jail did not even know why the meeting. He was the president. So Patasang, for example, did not know. Papongalafo did not know. There is a small man commander they call Nde, university teacher. He did not know. But the rest, let me finish. The rest knew. The rest knew. And like a crime syndicate, they seal their lips. Even that woman, that Naloba sealed her lips. I talked to her several times while I was in Nigeria and when I was in Douala.
Mr. Fuller, let's make progress from there. We're even told that they had to, some people claim that they had a discussion. Naloba during one interview, said they had a discussion to discuss about the refugees, but that was a meeting that could have taken place via a Zoom meeting. Well, while we're making progress, we have seen the outings of ATAM Milan. He just left the United States in the month of October, September. He visited Augustine Dangaman, went to different places doing a tour. He calls a tour to consult with the people of Ambazonia. Whoever is funding that, intelligence has it that, like rightly said by Commander Elvis, some of these people had some backdoor negotiation.
You're frozen. You're frozen. Paddy, your internet, you are frozen.
I cannot hear you now because it's so you cannot get what you're saying.
The control room should be able to see that.
Well, the technicians in the house.
If there's any of us on the phone, send him a text message by phone.
Hello? Hello?
And a witchcraft.
Yeah, he must not
Oh,
have recognized it.
no,
Is the one
his
restricted?
internet. Even
I think the one.
even a call and WhatsApp message, you cannot get.
Okay. Then what do we do now?
Let me
Do
see if
you
we can
still?
get. Let me see if we can get him on the direct line.
I'm calling him.
Hmm.
He's not picking. Let me send him a text. Today might just be an unfortunate day.
I'm sorry
Okay.
about that. We have been having some issues with network audit. That's why the program even started late. Um, so I had to do everything to reconnect. Thank God we're back. So I was saying that there were even rumors that ATAM Milan, that the meeting was for refugees. So I wanted to ask you, Commander Zama, this is about uh, uh, steering and political positioning. We have read the write-up. This is somebody that is observing. There are two sides of the question that I want you to react to, and Elvis will also react, and then we can conclude. Somebody that's observing two things. Number one, we are told that ATAM Milan is still in very firm communication with Yaoundé. And he was hoping that the political climate could change for some negotiations to take place. On the other hand, ATAM Milan is trying to position itself for fear of
Again,
Did you hear me, please?
You ended by Atam is trying to position himself to something. I didn't know. I didn't hear the other portion.
Yeah.
You got cut off.
So I told that he probably is betraying and putting himself for something. So just react to the question. Let me factor out
Well,
what's up.
I think in this fight, it's a fight of influence, and the guys in South Africa have a beef to pick with us over here. But that beef should not be with us. We are fighting for how an Ambazonia that we want to leave to these kids who are fighting and dying for us. And we are not in a fight against Milan. Milan had betrayed the cause a long time ago. I quite remember the night before Ayuk Sisisco left for Cameroon. We were in Washington. We contributed about $58,000 that one night. And the next thing I heard, oh, he's out. He's in a plane flying back to Africa. And like, but this guy had applied for asylum here, and the mere fact that you applied for asylum, leaving the country nullifies your asylum papers. And We didn't hear anything from him, and they never explained anything. Even for a couple of days, we didn't find anything. Even when ATAM knew that they had arrested them or they had kidnapped them, he never told anything but a couple of days after that. But that said, I think this fight has gone beyond one person. ATAM, they started this thing, and they contributed the best they could contribute, and they faded out of that memory of Ambazonians. I think it's time for us to move forward and move forward with everything we have by fighting this war and winning this war. If they want to come on the table and fight with us, well, it's nice. In South Africa, in Qatar, with Buthelezi was always there when the ANC was fighting to liberate South Africa. And you see the same thing in Angola. You saw the same thing with FMLN in Angola and in Mozambique. These group of fringe groups will always exist in a fight for liberation. Those that are fighting for raison d'être, and those that are fighting to liberate their people. And let's move on. I think this is a moot conversation to even have talking about it. Thank you. Over to you, Paddy.
Okay, I'm going to bring you Elvis, please. Can you react, please?
Yes, Director Paddy, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not well vested in this sector of a struggle when it comes to the history. I was more or less focused on making sure that our self-defense apparatus was in place. So I would let the barristers continue the analysis while I learn.
Well, I think the barristers have buttressed the point enough. I just wanted you to get your point. Like Commander Zama has advised, there's no need all that time. We just thought that what is going out there, we needed to educate our people to understand the genesis of it. So that somebody doesn't come from nowhere and is trying to paint himself the angel and every other person the demon. We're facing some technical stuff. I would have liked us to extend to talk about the program we're having next week with the Women's Department and Social Services to try to see how we could put some things in preparation for the Christmas holiday with ABC Amba Television. But in the course of the week, we're going to brief you with the program and how everything is going to go on. I want to thank you all, gentlemen, for coming. We've had an enriching conversation and we have actually educated people. Let's get our rendezvous for next week when we're having the ABC Day with the Women's Department and Department of the Commission for Women's Services and HSS and ABC to plan for Christmas for our people. So see you all next week, Saturday. Thank you for tuning in. I'm calling all Ambazonians who are watching us. You know the importance of this platform. You need to keep your donations coming. You need to keep ABC Amba Television alive. And until next time, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to have this program rebroadcast at the home front. And we'll also have you have your questions you probably want to ask or any clarity of situations that you like to understand. You can always send through our various portals. It's a lot of announcements that I thought I was going to make today, but I will get details after consultation with government to give you the outline of December program. We've had an enriching evening. Thank you for being a part of the show. And